This episode of Lawyers Tell All is brought to you by the Intake Academy. Do you know how to cement relationships with more of your ideal clients, get them to commit to you, and send you more referrals than you ever thought possible? Visit www.intakeacademy.com, where you will get the strategies you need to make the most of your marketing and advertising dollars. Plus, develop a team of intake specialists and attorneys who convert more qualified case opportunities and build meaningful relationships with prospective clients. Welcome to the Lawyers Tell All podcast, where Chris Mullins, the preeminent sales and communications consultant in the legal industry, shows you how it looks through lawyers' eyes. Here, innovators in the trenches provide powerful insights that help you connect with new clients, handle the sometimes harsh realities of the legal profession, and embrace the mindsets needed to succeed. Be sure to visit our website at www.lawyerstellall.com. And while you're there, subscribe to us via your favorite network. Now, lean in, tune in, and let's take a deep dive.
Hello, everyone. It's Chris Mullins with Lawyers Tell All, and today I am going to be interviewing Jon Groth, and I'm going to let Jon tell you a little bit about himself.
Well, thanks for having me. Yeah, I'm Jon Groth. I'm an attorney in Wisconsin. It is the fall in Wisconsin, so that's why we have Flannel Fridays. Pretty laid back here in this time of season. We are a personal injury law firm. We help people all across Wisconsin in, I guess, typical car crash, slips and falls, premises liability, things like that. We have a unique practice in that 3 of our attorneys and some of our staff do vaccine injury claims. And that I can say I'm an international lawyer because we help people all across the world. I've had clients who are in Siberia, Germany, and really anywhere in the United States. We currently have clients in Hawaii, California, East Coast, West Coast. If you get a vaccine in any military base or in the continental U.S., then you can be part of this vaccine injury compensation program. So yeah, that's what we do. We have a single event car crash type cases in Wisconsin, and then our vaccine practice, that's nationwide.
So how did the vaccine practice all kind of take off? What happened?
I didn't know it existed until about 4 or 5 years ago. We had another law firm that came to us, and they said that their partners were looking to retire, and they had no associates that wanted to take over the firm. So we were approached to really take over and purchase that firm. And after doing the due diligence, we looked at their books, and I'm like, what's this line item? This compensation, what's this coming from? It doesn't make any sense. Like, oh, that's our vaccine practice. I was like, oh, okay, now I know that there is such a thing. And then we looked into that and figured out that it is really an interesting, viable practice. It's very much along the lines of like a workers' compensation practice, where if you meet certain elements, you're going to get compensation for your client. Yeah, we've been doing that for now about 4 years, and we have, like I said, 3 attorneys and 1 staff person who handle claims in the vaccine injury compensation program.
Oh, okay. Now, how long have you been in practice?
24 years. I graduated law school in 2000.
Okay,
Yeah,
24 years. What made you want to be an attorney?
Boy, well, I went to college wanting to be a jazz musician. That didn't work out very well, so I decided that I should change, and I was never involved in politics or never involved in anything like that. I was pretty shy as a high schooler. But then when I went to undergrad, my sister gave me some great advice to get involved in as many things as you can. So I got involved in a bunch of different things, and I went into college playing jazz saxophone, and then I got involved in student government and got involved in different church programs at school. And then when I decided that being in a small room playing my saxophone for 8 hours a day wasn't for me, I changed over to philosophy, kind of like the kind
Mm-hmm.
of deep thought kind of stuff. And then I went from that to political science and business. And then you realize that when you're a political science major, there aren't many options when you graduate. You can work in Wisconsin, you can work in Madison, try to go to maybe DC and work there.
Mm-hmm.
Otherwise, you go to law school. So I went to law school and I was thinking about being like a criminal attorney,
Yeah.
like a DA, because then I
Mm-hmm.
could put the two together. DAs in Wisconsin are elected, so I could run for office and be a lawyer. But then I had a criminal law class that I decided I didn't really like. It sounded
Really?
like, well, I, there are certain parts of the law that I would rather not have to handle, like divorce. That just seems so taxing. Criminal law, certain aspects of criminal law with dealing with kids and such just seems, God bless those people who can do it. That's just not what I um, wanted to do. So I got into a general practice firm and
Mm-hmm.
drafted contracts and handled small claims evictions and all kinds of things. And then because I was the young person in the firm, I did their litigation and I
Mm-hmm.
handled a number of personal injury cases. And then
Okay.
after a couple of years there, I got contacted by another firm and taken by them. And I've been doing personal injury ever since. So since
Yeah.
about 2002, that's all I've done is help people who are injured because of other people's negligence.
And so the last sentence you just said, is that the reason you do it?
Yeah, yeah, it's um, I like the strategy behind it. I really do enjoy looking at a case in the very beginning and trying to figure out what the strategy is, how we can maximize the benefit for a client.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of fun.
Mm-hmm.
Which then you're really not working. If you're having fun helping people, it's not really a job. It's more
Mm-hmm.
just a fun day in the office.
Yeah.
And you get to help people who are, going through some horrible things.
Yeah. Right. Okay. So the work-life balance, how does that work for you? Like, both, is it great right now? Was it challenging a while ago? And when it was, what did you do to get out of it? The challenges.
Oh gosh, boy, it's kind of up and down. It really depends on the day. I mean, this year is a different year for us simply because we've been, trying to implement EOS, the traction, Gino Wickman,
Yeah.
those
Yeah.
books, um, or Fireproof, however you want to say it.
Yeah.
Um, so we hired an HR director for the first time ever, and I should go back. We've grown exponentially over these past few years, and now that were when we got to around 20 or so, we realized we needed to have an HR person.
Mm-hmm.
And then we hired a number of overseas, VAs. So now
Mm-hmm.
we're up to this year, we hired 8. So we have 8 VAs. And having all that, that's really um, made it more difficult to really work on the business and in the business when you have
Mm-hmm.
that many people and you don't really know everybody. So that's a
Mm-hmm.
difficult one. So this year, the work-life balance, I think, is getting better. I think it's always improving, but this year is getting better just simply because we're trying to have those maybe C-suite or directorships involved. So,
Mm-hmm.
we have our EOS meeting every Monday and go over with the management team, and then they can
Mm-hmm.
go on their way. And that's my hope is that next year it'll even get better. We have a annual meeting in the beginning of every year that we kind of go through what our goal is going to be for that year. So right now we're planning for that annual meeting to see what
Okay.
our goal is going to be for that 2025.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And now the virtual folks,
Yeah,
what departments are virtual?
sure. So we have 4 virtual. We have 1 manager and 3 team members who just help with requesting medical records and calling on balances.
Mm-hmm.
Because well, this is a big complaint, is I could be paying somebody here to pay them $20 an hour, let's say, to wait on the phone for somebody to pick up to say that our client owes that doctor 6 cents, or $25. I
Yeah.
would rather have, pay somebody in a VA less to sit there and wait on hold for potentially hours. So
Mm-hmm.
they're doing medical records and calling on balances. And then we have other um, virtual staff who are in Mexico that are Spanish speaking, and that's just a godsend. having somebody who is native Spanish speaker who can help with our intake and help with our case managers. So I don't know if you know
Mhm.
Ryan McKean. You know Ryan
Yeah,
McKean?
yeah, I do. Yeah.
Yep.
Hmm.
He's kind of made a name for himself with the $100 million day and that kind of stuff. But
Hmm.
he works with Brett Tremblay and Get Staffed Up,
Yeah, right.
and
Yeah.
they have this new case manager kind of program. So we have a couple of their case managers who are helping us um, with our, I guess, helping our paralegals with just the managing of cases. And then I have somebody who's a VA who helps with my social media implementation, posting things and
Hmm.
working with our in-house videographer about getting all that social media up and working on our podcast and such too.
Right. Okay. So I work with Brett a lot for intake,
Hmm.
getting intake folks on board at various law firms. So the Mexico, is that through Get Staffed Up, or is that
That's correct. Yeah, that's what gets stepped up. Yeah, and that's where we really started. We got our first VA from Brett for intake, but she's been fantastic. So she's just we flew her up to Wisconsin um, last year, and she met with the staff, and then now she's, I think, probably thankfully back into the warm weather. But hopefully she'll come back up for our annual meeting again in January. But she's got promoted and she's been just a fantastic addition to the team.
is she Mexico?
Yes.
Okay, great. That's really, really good. Okay.
Hmm.
So how many folks do you have in intake?
So we have, um, um, boy, that's a great question. I'll go through names. Madeline, Jackie, Lainey, Madison. Um, we have four right now who are um, full-time intake, and then I'll say our receptionist is an intake, and so that will be five-ish approximately.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and then we have law clerks from time to time who will assist with intake, but that's if somebody's on lunch or something like that. And then we
Hmm.
have an after-hour service that we use too. That is, boy, um, Legal Answer Edge,
Hmm.
right? Is it Mike
Yeah,
Harris? You know Mike
that's
Harris's company?
yeah, yeah, right, yeah.
Yeah.
So you do that after hours. Okay, so you have all your phones covered. Nothing's falling through the cracks, right?
Well, there is once in a while I don't have all my hair in my head because I do pull my hair out from time to time because
Mhm.
sometimes something falls through the cracks. Yes, but we're trying to keep those cracks as small as possible.
Yeah. So what are the biggest lessons that you've learned that you could pass on to other attorneys that are watching this podcast, like over the years?
Boy, answer the phone as soon as it rings. Do not
Hmm.
let that phone ring more than a couple times. Number one. Number two, um, uh, if somebody responds or if somebody goes onto your online and they like your website and they do an online contact, you have to call them almost immediately.
Yeah.
It used to be like within 5 minutes or however many minutes. I have a real life story that I was uh, uh, at my in-laws house, and this is years ago, so I didn't have much of a work-life balance. I was always working. I think maybe one of my kids was, taking a nap or something, so I just had my phone or my phone on my computer, and I was working. And somebody sent us a contact form, and I called them, and as I'm calling them, they are talking to me, and then somebody else called them as I'm
Hmm.
talking to them, and they said, "Oh, it was Brett." I was like, "Oh, is it Brett from so and so firm?" He's like, "Yeah, it's Brett from so and so firm." So I knew at that point that they had probably gone through the
Yeah, exactly.
online and just call, or they were just submitting a bunch of different, cut and paste submissions to
Right,
all
right,
these law firms who were calling you. And luckily, I was the first one to call them. But if I waited just a matter of seconds, I would have been the
yeah.
second. So I
Hmm.
tell that story all the time. It's like you can't underestimate the importance of getting on the phone and making that phone call as soon as possible because
Yeah.
if you look at it just as a matter of dollars and cents, if your average fee is, let's say, $8,000 or 5,000 or 10 or whatever amount it is, or $500, I don't care what it is, by making that phone call that soon and having a sense of urgency, you've made yourself some money.
Yeah, exactly. So what do you say to the folks that say, well, um, I don't have anybody helping after hours or anything like that because I don't have enough work for my intake to do. Like if they don't want to get a call, they don't want to have an outside call center and they don't want to have their own team do it because they don't feel like there's enough work for them to do. What do you say to that?
Boy, I went right to the outside call center because so let me go way back. When I first started working for a personal injury firm, I was the outside call center. So they gave me a cell phone and they said, here, John, at 5 o'clock in the old phone system, they'd push a button and every single call would go to me.
Right.
So I
Yeah.
could tell you some crazy stories. Bar time here in Wisconsin is 2 in the morning. So my phone would ring at
Mm,
2 in the morning. And I'd answer the phone. I get woken up and, so-and-so law firm, how can I help you? And it's like, okay, that was preposterous. Um, so I've been there, done that, but
mhm.
from time to time there would be calls that came in that were really good cases
Yeah.
um,
Yeah.
after hours. So uh, I I think it's certainly worth it. I learned my lesson. Uh, 20 some years ago working for that firm that by having a call center and sorry, eventually they did have a call center that
Mhm.
would take the calls first. And then if it was a qualified case, then they would forward it to me. So my personal life wasn't totally gone.
Yeah.
I did have some buffer there.
Yeah.
Um, and I learned that it was certainly well worth it to have a call center do that. And I had looked at, was it Ruby Receptionist and the Lex
Yeah.
Reception and all these other companies, and they weren't very expensive.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
they're more like a pay to play type um, uh,
Mhm.
system. So
Mhm.
I think it's worth it.
Yeah, I still do recommend that. I mean, do the call center if you have to, but at the end of the day, I think it's better to have your own team, like your own 24/7 virtual team, because they're just working for you and they can stay focused on you and your firm and what your firm does and not like multiple law firms. Yeah, they can give you more focusing just on your firm. And they could all be overseas and you would just have to interview them, make sure you have the right people and you train them and there you go.
Yeah. But
Yeah.
how does that work? Are you then looking for, now I have questions for you, Chris. Sorry, and I open this up. Um, are you looking for people, somebody in um, Pakistan and somebody in the Philippines and somebody in Mexico? So you get all those
Yeah.
different,
Right. Yeah.
okay.
So you can cover it. And so, I mean, people get accidents all the time. So have it 24/7, have it be your own folks, not an outside call center. And that's it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Maybe
So
that's gonna be my goal for next year.
yeah.
Now you're putting ideas in my mind here. Thank you, Chris.
Yeah. Well, I think the outside call centers are going to cost more money than having your own virtual team. And again, they're trying to work with, I mean, it's a good business, but it's a tough business. And they're working for so many different law firms and different scripts. Um, but you can just take care of your own people the way you take care of your own people now. And they're just your own people.
Yeah.
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 Good idea.
Yeah. So that's the best way to go. And then let me ask you this. How many attorneys do you have at your firm?
We have 7 attorneys.
Okay. Now, when it comes to intake, are they doing the whole intake? Are they doing like a one call close and getting them signed up, or is somebody else doing that? What is the setup there? Is the attorney getting involved?
The goal is it's a one call close. So when you're on the phone, you text them the contract. We have our qualifiers. So you text them the contract, the retainer, they sign at that point, and then get as much information as you can at that time.
Hmm.
Um, Sometimes if after the retainer is signed, they have to have a additional intake. The goal is that we'll send a 24-hour letter telling the client, thank you for hiring our firm, a welcome packet, and then send letters of rep out to different insurance companies um, right away is the hope. And then if intake has to do a follow-up, they'll finish the follow-up, and then it goes to our paralegals. If there
Hmm.
are questions that, let's say, an attorney is needed to close the deal, we have on our Teams channel, the
Mhm.
I'm trying to think what it's called. It's like triple exclamation points, potential new client kind of
Yeah,
thing. So
right,
when you
right.
see that pops up, it's like, okay, an attorney needs to get off their phone call and take that phone call because that's
Yeah.
an important potential lead coming in, potential client.
Yeah, perfect. Tell me this. How do you folks take care of mental health with your, let's say like, well, just your firm in general, but the attorneys and even intake because of all the kind of clients and stories and information they're taking in and the traumatizing, fatalities and everything. How do you handle mental health support?
You're the second person today who's talked about that. We're going through our process for finding a new vendor for our health insurance and for our wellness system. And the ones that we're interviewing now have um, uh, a full-time yoga, meditation, all that kind of aspect, which I think is something that we're really seriously looking into because other than that, there's nothing much that we do. We do have events that we go to blow off steam, and we play golf, we do those kind of things. But that's not really that just more team bonding and creating a little bit of a culture. Just getting to know each other personally. But when it comes to the mental health of how to um, extract yourself away from all the bad stories you hear all day, I
Mhm.
am up for any advice you can give us on how to help people with that. I mean, I have a history, my wife and I have an agreement that when I come home, I'm not talking about work because I'd rather talk about how my sons did in swim practice that day or, let's go walk the dogs and throw a ball around with them as opposed to talking about,
Yeah,
whatever horrible pictures I saw. So
right,
um,
right. Yeah.
that's a fantastic question.
Yeah, I think that what you've mentioned so far, like with the insurance, that's great. And I also have found with a lot of clients, they have a portion of the insurance where you can get therapy. It's part of the program, but the team doesn't know it.
Yeah,
So in other words, like whatever your insurance plan has, if you have that kind of support system, make sure that everybody knows it and maybe have a system where you encourage them to use it. And you could have like lunch and learns where you have outside professionals come in on a regular basis to talk about all kinds of things, but you could just have like a series on mental health and stress and the signs of depression and burnout and professionals helping to talk about different scenarios and how to handle it in the moment when you're
yeah,
in the middle of the moment, and then what to do after that moment is done and what not to do. So, and you can do a lot of different role playing. So any of that is not difficult to do. It's just putting a date on the calendar. You can even have, mental health days, um, with a firm. Don't get mad now, but I was going to say the firm shuts down, right?
yeah,
It's mental health for everybody, but
yeah,
anyway, I think that just doing something, what you're looking into, and some of the things that I said, maybe it'll give you other ideas, but it is something that should be top of mind for everybody at the law firm and talked
yeah.
about on a regular basis.
Yeah, I think that's a fantastic idea when it comes to the burnout. If you're talking to people who are um, really in bad situations, and what we say, something we say pretty often here is that we don't have difficult clients, we have clients in difficult situations. So you're
Mhm,
listening to people who may be yelling, but they're yelling because they're so worried about their daughter or
mhm,
somebody else who is really near and dear to them who is injured, and they're taking it out on you, the attorney or the
right.
team member. But it's not because you're doing something wrong. It's just because they're so upset over what has recently happened to them. So
Mhm,
then how do you deal with that?
exactly.
Um,
Exactly.
it's a fantastic point. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, another way to look at it is everything that you want your team to do for your clients and your prospective clients with empathy and listening and active listening and all of that. You just want to make sure that you're doing the same to the team and for the
Yeah.
team. And one of the things that I talk about a lot is law firms are not really in the legal business as much as they're in the relationships and healing business.
Yeah.
So the more attention you give to your team, the stronger they'll be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's a great idea. Yeah. The I'm trying to think of the people who have talked about burnout most. I think it is intake and paralegals who have talked about how this is taxing and they need to take a day off.
Mhm.
And we here have unlimited PTO. We implemented that this year, so
Mhm.
um, it's something that we are very free with our time off
Mhm.
because we understand that some things happen and we're not going to keep you captive.
Right.
And we don't want you to worry about, well, am I going to have time at the end of the year if I take off for
Right. Yeah.
a good event? Let's say I'm going on vacation or I'm, some people we had a couple of people who got married this year, so they shouldn't be worried about having to take off later on
Okay.
because of some
Yeah.
good event later on or earlier on. Yeah.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. Attorneys too. I mean, I found over the years with the attorneys I work with, they just don't like to talk about it. But the mental health is definitely there for them too. What else would you like everybody to know?
Um, Boy, I don't know that this is, do we cover all the vaccine stuff? We talked about the vaccines, um, we have just an unusual practice when it comes to helping people nationwide, internationally with vaccines. I just will say in general, I'm a big fan. I told you off the air. We've been
Uh,
watching um, you and your expertise for years. So hopefully, some of the things that I've done and some of the successes I have, I will it's very probable that it comes directly from things that I've learned from you. I know for
mhm.
a while you had videos on PILMA that I have saved for right or for wrong, maybe I'm in wrong on this, but I saved them to our system and have everybody are forced to watch them because it's very, very helpful. So yeah, you've been a great addition to our team, even though you didn't know it.
That's great. No, keep doing the videos. That's great. All right. Well, I really appreciate your time. I've enjoyed sitting here with you.
Well, thank you. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, John. So long, everybody. We'll see you again real soon. Bye-bye.
Thank you for tuning in to Lawyers Tell All, where Chris Mullins takes you on a journey with lawyers in the trenches who show you the realities of what it takes to succeed in this chaotic, crowded, ever-changing profession. Remember to visit our website at www.lawyerstellall.com and enjoy even more great episodes like this one. Again, while you're here, subscribe to us via your favorite network. We look forward to seeing you next time on Lawyers Tell All.